Happy New Year, Missouri Mid-South Conference. I bring you greetings today from my office on this Epiphany, January 6th, New Year 2017, here in my conference office. This may look a little strange here that I have this box on top of my desk, and I'm trying something new, and I was going to try to do my video standing up, but it didn't work out. But I have this box here because when I was on Christmas break, a part of what I realized was that I sit a lot in conference ministry. I sit at this desk many hours. I sit in the car. I sit in an airplane. I sit at meetings. And what I realized in my body and in my mind and in my spirit was that that sitting kind of made me stuck. And so when I came back this week, back to ministry in the conference office, what I decided was that I was going to try something new, which is to stand at my desk. And so I ordered one of those stands for a desk so that a person can stand and have their computer, but until then I thought that I would try this out. And so this is a little box that I got from the Container Store, and so I have my laptop on it usually, and I stand, and I have to tell you, it's so exciting to me. It feels good. It feels like the blood is moving throughout my body and it's not getting stuck, and I'm not hurting and all of that. All of that to say that in the new year, sometimes when we have some time to kind of take a break and take some time to rest and reflect on where we are, we come back, and some people do resolutions, and some people commit to eating healthy or doing things that are healthy for our body, our mind, and our spirit. And I wanted to connect that in with our conference ministry theme, Living Our Change, because for the Epiphany season, I want to focus on the first part, living. And so I'm going to invite you to consider, how are you living? Not talking about change, not talking about just how are you living? Are you noticing within yourself that you're doing the same old thing and you might feel stuck? How is your church living? How is the Missouri Mid-South Conference living? How, as a community, how are we living? And just like for me, when I began to think about how often I am sitting and what that does to my body in terms of aches and pains, as well as my mind, as well as my spirit, what's getting stuck when I have to sit all the time and I'm not able to move? How am I living? I'm living in a stuck spirit and body and mind frame. If in those places where we begin to ask that question, how are we living? If there's something that feels stuck, how can we engage and make room for something new? Make room for a new way to do work, a new way to do family, a new way to do church and ministry. That's what I love about this new year and this new season, is that God calls us to take the places in our journeys where we are and to be aware, to open ourselves enough to be aware of where do we feel stuck, and then how do we live in that. Often as humans, when we are in those stuck places, we find ourselves facing an option that one kind of perpetuates that stuckness. And I identify that as survival mode. You know, you just do what you have to do in order to survive. I just keep sitting in my chair or sitting in my car or sitting in the whatever, because I got to do that in order to keep my job going, in order to keep going to all the meetings and da la 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 la. And if that means that I'm going to be stuck, okay. Or I can choose to live by opening myself, by saying out to the pain of where that is, and then to say, there is a healthier way to live than where we are now. Even in the places that are where we are suffering and that are painful and that are filled with anxiousness and fear, we can either survive and kind of just do what we need to do, or we can thrive and we can open ourselves and we can try new things and we can be engaged in that way. My friends, many of us, all of us, are going to be encountering tough places this year. Suffering, illness, death, lack of money, lack of energy in our churches, in a political season, in whatever place where you are in your family, in your professional life, in your church life, in spiritual life, in your communal life, in those places that feel stuck. I invite us to consider, how are we living? Are we in survival mode? Are we just doing what we have to do in order to survive, which causes us to draw in and silo ourselves, separate from one another, and hurt ourselves in painful ways, but we're just going to do it because we got to do it to survive? Or are we thriving? Are we opening ourselves? Are we being honest and vulnerable with where we are and who we are, so that God's light, Epiphany, can shine into us and move through us for the health of the beloved community? Too often in ministry, I see churches and ministers focusing and living in survival mode, out of fear, out of anxiousness, out of what they know. I'm just going to keep on doing. I'm just going to sit in these meetings because I have to. But there are also the opportunity to think about how to live. How did Christ live in the midst of his suffering, in the midst of the challenges, in the midst of a government, an imperial government that said, this is who you are, and this is what you must do, and if you do anything else, that is not okay? Did Jesus survive by drawing inward and siloing himself to just those whom he knew? No. He recreated. He thought outside the box. He reimagined how we are supposed to be. And he opened himself, and he opened his disciples, and he opened all of those around him to love, and love, and love. And every time we choose to live with love by opening ourselves, by thriving in a way that moves us out of our siloed, fearful survival mode, there is more space and room for God. My brothers and sisters, this is our challenge. The world needs us to open ourselves, make ourselves vulnerable, reimagine who and whose we are, and live through God's love. This is exciting. As exciting as figuring out a new way to work by standing. As exciting as a church figuring out a new way of being by renting their space, by selling their building, by naming their ouch and their pain, so that God's love can illuminate them in new life. My brothers and sisters, this is our joy as we are living our change in 2017. I look forward to all the ways in which God's light is shining upon us this day and forevermore. Amen.